Hey guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Game Gymnastics podcast. This week I'm joined by Yanni Chronopoulos, a Canadian gymnast that helped the team achieve a silver medal at the World University Games recently, was an Olympics reserve for Canada and also a Big Ten Rings gold medalist. We'll talk about his journey in the sport, how he found NCAA gymnastics and how it helped him, and what it was being in the position of an Olympic reserve. In my opinion, one of the toughest positions you can be put into. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Game Gymnastics podcast. Thank you all for listening. Today we've got a special guest all the way from Canada. We've had a few international guests recently. We've got another one today, Yanni Chronopoulos. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. So we'll start simple. How did you first get into gymnastics? And when did you realize it could become a serious endeavor for you?
I was 10 years old when I started, but I would say I was really like 12 when I wouldn't say serious, like completely serious about it, but like I was starting to, the gears were turning in my head where it's like, okay, I get it. I really want to get better at this. Was probably around 12 years old. So my family owns a restaurant, and the restaurant's right beside a gym that opened up. And at one of the summers when I was, I think 10 years old, they had a lot of energy, just a classic gymnast story. And my parents saw the sign up beside the restaurant, and they said, okay, like we're going to put him into summer classes just so he can do something while we're working. And I started there. I became good friends with the owner and coach's son. We're both around the same age. And it initially started as like I just want to hang out with my friend, like more days. So then I would ask my mom, like, hey, can I go in another day? Can I have another day? We became good friends. The coach said, like, okay, you're registered for a certain amount of days in the rec program. It would honestly be cheaper if you registered in the competitive program. And he seems like he likes it. So eventually my parents were like, okay, are we really doing this? Like, are you going to like be a gymnast, or are you just doing this for fun? Then I ended up saying, yeah, I want to continue doing it, and got put into the competitive program. And from there, I ended up here.
So what was your early training like growing up in Canada?
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't very serious at the beginning because it was more just a pastime. I ended up going to a different gym a couple years after, and that's when I really focused in, and where I was like, okay, I'm going to this gym and I'm the the lowest level gymnast out of all these guys here. And I see them all winning competitions. And I didn't really like that I was kind of nowhere in that picture. So I decided that I wanted to beat a lot of those guys and kind of push them in everyday training and competition. And I slowly worked my ways up the rankings. And then, I had a good group of guys together. We were uh, towards the top level in Ontario, the province of Canada that I'm from. So, I guess it was a slow start, but once I really focused in, then it picked up pretty quick, I would say.
What led you to Nebraska? Because I heard from Luke James that you trained there with him for a good few years. And how has training in the US and the NCAA system shaped your gymnastics?
So initially, I got introduced to the NCAA from a couple of my teammates. We had two groups, and one was me and like my age group kind of thing, and the other guys were 3-4 years older, and they were more national level, where we were provincial level at the time. So then the first guy went to the NCAA, the second guy, and it kind of seemed like it was a trend that was picking up. And it wasn't super well, I guess it was well known, but it wasn't a common thing in Canada, at least in my understanding at the time, of like gymnasts going to the US for school and gym. But then when 3-4 of my teammates started going, I was like, okay, let's look into this. This looks kind of cool. One of my teammates went to Nebraska, and we had 1 year overlap where we were actually on the same team together. But he would come back in his first year, second year, like, and I'm getting older, and I'm at this point I'm completely invested in gymnastics, and he would tell me all these things. Oh, like it's a great time there. They're super accommodating, and I knew that my parents wanted me to go to university, but then I also knew that there were still a lot of my like people that I knew that would either their level they would continue training when they're in university, and their level would go down significantly, or they would just retire and pick school over gym. So there was always the divide there. But then when my teammates came back and were like, "Oh yeah, they plan your day around the classes and gym, and it's super like they're understanding over this and that," then I was like, "Okay, this kind of seems like a way where I can do both kind of thing, right?" In terms of training, like I said, it's all structured around um, school kind of thing. So usually, what I would do is I would have weights in the morning on certain days of the week, and then like as a team, we would all go at 7 a.m. to do weights, and then after that, you would have your classes. And then you'd have, depending on how many classes you have in the day, you would have a little bit of a break, and then training. And then after training, it's kind of the time to study and do all the other like extra stuff for school. I would say that the NCAA system is super beneficial because you're in a team of 20 guys, and you know that there initially were five spots on each lineup, and now there's four. Just this past year it started. So it's super competitive where like they're all your friends and you're all working towards the same thing, but you know that there's only four spots. And when one guy's struggling, the other guy, like there's another five guys that are on it. So it's just a consistent pushing of each other back and forth that you have to be on your game all the time. And I think that's taught me a lot in the sport where like, you're there's always the up and downs, but like you got to find a base level that you can always achieve.
What was it like training alongside those gymnasts? Because it is incredibly competitive, and I mean, I can say with a little bit of experience in that, like knowing that the gymnasts that you're training with, you're also competing against, and you're also trying to fight for the same spots. What's that
Mm.
like?
It's very competitive, but I wouldn't say it's like cutthroat at all. Like it's everybody's understanding that like you're my teammate, you're my friend, but I want that lineup spot, and they think the same way. I guess it's a level of self accountability where you don't have the time to have like you can't afford to have a bad week or even sometimes a bad day in the gym. For example, for us, we would always do a pommel inter squad on Wednesdays where we would all the guys who do pommel and all the guys who have their routines ready and are fighting for that lineup spot. Everybody's showing a routine in front of the entire team. So everyone stops and they watch this inter squad. The pressure is high. We try and make it feel like a competition as much as possible. And you know that if you fall on that Wednesday and the competition's on Saturday, it shows the coach that, okay, maybe right now in a pressure situation, he couldn't hit his routine. And then you have maybe one more chance towards the end of the week before you leave for the competition to hit that routine. And let's say it's kind of sketchy, even if you make the routine, if it's not the best, then like you're basically 0 for 2. And then another guy could just beat you out of that spot. Right. So it's just like you need to know how to always be on your game. And I think that's what's taught me how to compete so well. Just the sheer volume of competitions, because we have like 10 plus a year. And the ability to almost like not miss or like know every routine is super important.
Can they literally make those decisions like right up towards the competition? Because you said that if you like miss two routines the week of the competition, they might consider someone else. Can they literally do that? Can they like switch it around like day of, day before?
They can do it like during the warm-ups too. Like I
Jesus.
remember there was one time where we have our like alternates on every event.
Yeah.
Sometimes like two alternates. And I remember there was one competition on high bar. I was the first alternate for the lineup, and one of our guys was just not on in the warm-ups. Like his releases were were off the bar. His dismounts weren't good. It was just a very odd day for him because he did a stalder and he pung off on the bottom of a stalder. And my coach looked at me and said, "All right, you're in. Like, have you warmed up
Gee.
everything?" And I was like, "Well, I did some giants." He's like, "No, go warm up everything because you're in." So we're about to start the competition, and I was like, towards the end of the warm ups, he's doing it. He's healthy. He's not injured. So I think I'm not going to compete high bar that day. And then it's like you have 5 minutes to warm up everything because at the end of the like on high bar, you're up first. So it's like you gotta be able to stay on your toes at all times.
Yeah, on the bottom of a stalled is crazy.
Yeah, I know. It was just one of those days. We saw that, we're like, "Ah, damn." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done quite recently actually. It was over pit, so it was alright, but I did squat full, then I was going for squat half, and I pung off like when I was coming up on the squat half,
Oh.
literally. I didn't realize until I was basically in the pit. Scary. Scary that that can happen because it's always on the things that you least expect it as well.
Yeah, when your guard's down a little, "Oh, I've never done this before," and then boom, you're off.
Hey guys, Winston here. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, please do leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you can. Also, if you want more gymnastic content from me, you can check out my Instagram at wpowell05 or my TikTok at winstonpowell5. Thank you, and let's get back to the episode.
When you were competing in the NCAA, did you ever go back and compete for Canada?
Yeah, yeah. So I just graduated in May, this past May. I would say I think it was the first 2 years of my 5. It's just a big change going from, gymnastics here, then now you're doing school, like, more intensely, I guess, and you move to a different country, all the different life changes, so it was and especially the season, like, I was not used to competing 10 times, and then now you have a month break, and then you have Canadian nationals. So it was like, whoa, my body's not really keeping up to this. And I think in my 3rd year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back and I'm really gonna try and show that this has helped me. But I got appendicitis in my 3rd year, right before postseason. So this was about 2 months, I think, out of Canadian nationals. And it took me about a month to really get back everything. Like I was doing pommel a lot leading up to it, and where I actually got a pommel routine ready for NCAA championships. But I had only made my first or like attempted my first pommel routine at the competition and the trainings. And it just kind of wasn't enough time. And I knew I wanted to do all around at Canadian National. So I just made a big push. Like I came into the gym and I was like really trying to get all around ready. And there was one day where my coach came up to me and he was like, "Hey, listen, like I see that you're trying to make this happen, but you've been away from Canadian gymnastics for like 3 years now. I don't want you to come back and not be ready. And like you're introducing a whole like yourself as a whole new gymnast now. When I was 17 in high school, it's not the same as now. I'm like 20, 21. Like I'm coming back to the scene there. Like I don't want to go there and fall 5 times. And it's like, oh, this is the gymnast he is. That's the second first impression. You know what I mean? So then we
Yeah,
we
yeah,
pulled
I
out of
got
that
you.
one. We pulled out of that one, and we really just made it. Okay, next year we're going to come back for sure. And I did quite good that year. And I was happy with the initial and re-entry into Canadian gymnastics.
I can't imagine it's easy because it's two very different scenarios that you're in because one's a team competition, one's individual. Like the
Mhm.
only person you let down when you're doing all around is yourself. But then the other
Yeah,
side of
exactly.
it is like this massive team environment, and you mess up a routine, and you're letting everyone down. You recently competed at the World University Games. What was that experience like?
It was super cool. Like I've only heard good things from this competition, and that's why I really made an effort to get there. Basically, like there was one point in time where we don't have too many Canadian gymnasts that fill the requirement to go to university games. But we were basically recruiting for to put together a team to actually have like 4 guys or 3 scores to count on every event. And at some points, it was like, okay, maybe we're not going to get it because some guys have injuries and they can't do floor or they can't do rings, and it's like, how are we going to put this team together? But we talked a lot. We had a lot of calls between the gymnasts, and then we went to our federation and say, okay, these are the guys that are ready. And we honestly didn't really have too much of a selection because we were pretty limited for numbers there. But yeah, it was in Germany. Germany, I've found to always they always show out for gymnastics competitions. Their fans are great. They seem like they really care. The organization, from everything from the hotel to the transportation, it was a great time. Yeah, and just seeing like that kind of world with as a games where it's like different sports and all that. Like that was my first major kind of games, and it was great. One of the most fun competitions I've been to.
I've heard like multi-sport is a lot different to like just specific gymnastics competitions. Canada as a team got second. What did that feel like, having a team that was like just about ready or like just about put together for the competition?
It was surreal, honestly. Like we had a really great day, and not that like training was looking bad before, but we knew we had a little bit of a scramble to get everything together. And yeah, we just competed, I guess, to the best of our abilities. And I know some teams had some rough days, but doesn't take away from what we did in my eyes. Like I think if you asked anybody, we wouldn't be projected to go that high. But I guess it just showed the capability we have as a team. It was intense too because we were the second subdivision out of 6, and it was over 2 days, the qualification process, or like the team final was also qualification for all around. But we knew that we kind of had to be qualified in first place leading into the last subdivision to have any chance of medaling. Because we're looking at the teams, like we knew that Spain matched up really well with us, and obviously the US was like they're always just very good. We knew that Japan, they really sent their A team. It seemed like they're like a very strong team from Japan. So we knew that more or less they were pretty ahead of the whole competition there. Yeah, it was super stressful. Just like we were tuning in like on our phones, watching the other subdivisions, and we actually went to watch the last one because we were qualified in first. We knew that we were really in good standing to get that medal. So when we got those last scores in, and we're calculating, okay, they need this average, and the announcer was like making it very dramatic, waiting for that last score. And when it came out and we were celebrating, like that's a memory that's definitely going to stay with me. Just kind of, fulfillment almost, like we did it. Kind of not one that we've had too often,
Coming second to Japan is like, it's basically coming first,
it's
realistically.
not too bad, yeah.
Like,
So you don't need to
I mean, it
look at
is
the
Japan. They did have
difference.
Hashimoto
Yeah,
and Okashinosuke. They did have 2
yeah.
literal Olympic
Olympic champions,
all-around
yeah.
champions. So, I mean, speaking of the all-around, I know that you qualified for the all-around final as well, and then obviously competed in it. Came 11th. What was that experience like? Because obviously you were competing with some of the best in the world.
It was so cool. Like I looked at I realized that I qualified in the top group with all those guys and my teammate Will as well. So like it was perfect because we had one coach with us and he didn't have to run around. And then I looked at the start list and I saw that I was going to be after Daiki after every event, or in every event, the order. And I was like, damn, this
That's
is
so
like
sick.
a little bit surreal, like, yeah, you watch this guy on TV and like, that he's like one of, if not the best gymnast in the world. And now it's like, I'm walking up to the podium, not podium, the podium of the events. And like, giving him a fist bump, and then he's like, "Oh, good luck." You know what I mean? Like it just kind of it gave me confidence in a way too, that it's like, okay, I'm with these guys, and like you put yourself in that group category, I guess, of gymnasts, and you're like, okay, this is like, I kept having to like remind myself, like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. Like this is, I'm not just with these stars and it's unattainable. Like this is something I've earned to be in this group with them.
I mean, I can only imagine, to be fair. Like, being up against them is wild. And yeah, like, you earned your spot in that top group. You qualified top, whatever it is, like 6, to be able to make it in that group. Because they normally do 6 in a group and then the first 4 apparatus in the all-around final, right?
Yeah, it was only 3 because it was 18 in this one. But yeah, we all.
Oh, right.
If first to the floor, then yeah.
Was there like a standout moment or like routine that stood out to you that you're most proud of?
I would say high bar for sure. I've never been particularly strong on high bar, and it's, to be honest, not an event I love competing, but it is a good feeling once you finish your high bar routine. I would say that that's like, you can hit a really good ring routine, you can stick the dismount and you feel great, but like there's something about sticking a high bar dismount where it's like, especially because you're stressing. I don't love competing high bar, but then you did it. It's kind of satisfying in a way. And I stuck my high bar dismount both days. And like the first day, I was like, okay, that was sick. And then the second day of like all around final, when I stuck it, and like that was my last event, and it capped off just a great competition. I remember like the crowd was loud, and it was like the arena was great. Like, okay, that's like a core memory kind of thing.
Yeah, high bar's a scary piece, like, to compete, because no matter how confident you are with your routine, you could go like every single routine in the preparation clean, but there's always a tiny chance. There's always the chance that you fall. Going back a bit to 2024, I know that you were Olympic alternate. That's the word.
Yeah.
How did you feel being selected for that role?
It was interesting to like kind of unpack, because obviously I was proud of myself. I know I put a lot of work into that. But at the end of the day, it's a different role. It's not like you're on the reserve team. It's like, I don't know, you have the Olympic alternate or the Olympic reserve title, but there's not a whole lot of the Olympic part included in it. Like I was in a gym an hour out of Paris, just kind of maintaining my routines and keeping in shape, knowing that like really you're not going to compete, but there is that tiny chance that you will, and you don't want to get thrown up there and just not be prepared for it. But then again, you're doing the entire prep with the team. It's probably like a 2-month buildup of like, I'm doing everything they're doing, but I know at the end of the day, it's like, you're not going to be there, chances are. It was good though to be with the team and not doing that on my own, like just kind of trying to help hype everyone up, keep it going. It is a bittersweet feeling though, to be honest. Like it was character building for sure. Yeah, just a long process, long hard work, and our team did so good. Like we were team front. I think it might have been one of the first times we made team final, and that was like, I was so happy with them. Like it wasn't like, oh, I wish I was like, obviously everybody wishes they were there, but it just felt like I was part of it as well.
It is a really tough place to be, because you gotta be ready just in case. And you are still technically a part of the team, but you do feel a little bit of like distance, and you don't feel quite a part of it. But then you know that your role is really important. You gotta be like, you are the backup. And if something goes wrong, then you gotta be ready. So it's a tough position to be in, because you got to do something, but you might not need it. So yeah, you said you did like the exact same preparation as everyone else. What was that preparation like as a result of being the reserve?
We had our trials, obviously, and then right after trials, we had we had a training camp in Belgium where we also joined in on their Olympic trials. So it was more like a test for us. And then after that, we went to Romania for an actual competition, came back, had another training camp, and then went in Canada, and then went to Paris or went to France, but the south of France, where we had a training camp there as well. So it was just a bunch of like training camps and competitions everywhere. And then after the south of France, we went into Paris, and that's where we split ways, where they went into the village and I went to a gym somewhere in the area.
And did that experience change your perspective on your gymnastics, or did you learn from it in any way? And if so, how did you learn from it?
I would say I definitely learned from it. It was kind of hard to really understand what those lessons were. And even now I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to unpack, It's like a lot of it was honestly kind of like sad because like, you didn't make it. But then the guys also like they were super like they stress how like oh the coaches and the guys were saying like oh your role is so important this and that. And you're like, okay, well, like I appreciate that. At the same time, it's like I don't want to just be satisfied with this role, So I guess there is a reason to desire more. But then you have to kind of like know where you're at. Like, all right, I just came back to Canadian competition. Like I know my career is not in its like it's not ending soon. There's a lot more I can do as a gymnast, and like the future is still kind of like I'm still hopeful for the future. But yeah, it was a weird like up and down a lot, especially after when I got back home. It was like, okay, now what, right? Like you're sitting at home. It's like, damn, I like that's done now. That whole chapter of like my life is done for a little bit. But then honestly, like before I knew it, we were preparing routines again for the NCAA season.
Changing the subject a little bit, you mentioned before that high bar is not your preferred apparatus. What is your favorite piece, and has it ever changed over time?
I think it's always changing. Like people ask me that, okay, what about favorite piece to train, favorite to compete? It's like sometimes it could be like honestly, I think I've went through every single event, right? Like it's a mix between what doesn't hurt the body as much at the time, what I'm doing best at the time, like what events I have like upgrades that are close to like me achieving them, like stuff that's exciting. Honestly, I can't even like put a finger on it, like which one like it is right now, because I've been taking a little break since FISU games now, where I'm gonna be back in the gym tomorrow. But it's been a nice little break, and I don't really know what event I'm most excited to go to. I'm just excited to be back in the gym, to be honest.
Would you say you have a least favorite?
I would say competing high bar, probably the least favorite.
Fair.
Unless it goes good, like what I said before. Like if it's a great routine, then that's like one of the best feelings.
Yeah,
But
yeah, 100%.
yeah, competing high bar, it's just never been my favorite thing. I'd say doing vault when like training vault, because it takes a long time to upgrade a vault when you're in that like in the middle of like I have a couple months where I have to just keep doing the same vault and hopefully like tweaking this and that it can get better. Like that can get a little bit repetitive, and it's like you don't really feel like doing it all the time, but that if you're not consistent, then you just won't get it ever.
I can agree with you there. Vault has not been kind to me recently. It is a very long like stretch of time to upgrade the vaults, especially if you're like doing a big upgrade or you're like changing what vault you're trying to do, like handspring double front instead of doing Kaz's. Like that big changes is like it takes a very long time, and sometimes you have to prepare the old vault but then keep working on the other one in the background, and that's quite hard too.
As sometimes it feels like it's just never gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing it the same for like 6 months now. When is this gonna change?
Yeah, like it feels like you're doing it like maybe there's just a little tiny thing wrong, or like it just feels like you're one change away from it being perfect, but you just can't figure it out, and you can't figure out how you're gonna get that extra half twist round or whatever it is. Like, because the difference between doing something with a half, something without a half, like double twist to 2.5 or 2.5 to triple, it's ridiculous. It's so much more than you might think.
Yeah, especially on vault too. Like even on floor, it's not that big of a difference, but like vault for some
Yeah,
reason, it's a
it
whole
is
different vault.
ridiculous. When you compare 2.5 to triple, like 2.5, you got to work your heels loads more. You got to hit more in handstand, do more rotation, because you have to land more upright than with a triple. But with the triple, you have to hit it like a good few degrees lower, and then like block more, get more height, and wrap in straight away, get a lot less rotation. Like the technique's almost to two like completely different vaults, even though you're just adding a half twist onto one compared to the other.
Yeah, and I think that the confusing part about it is like I've talked to different people about what they do and like just seeing other people do it too. Like you have the Chinese who like to almost walk into their vaults. And like I think it was
Yeah,
Rotang, I think it was. He just walks
yeah,
and does a triple, just hits a block and goes. And then you have
yeah,
other guys that are just sprinting at like super fast. And you're like, okay, well, which one do I do? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I suppose the answer is always like do what works for you, and to figure that out, it's just trial and error,
yeah,
really.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I need to do some of that.
because I know like Jake Jarman, his vault is ridiculous, 3.5. He doesn't look like he puts much into it. He doesn't put much into it. Like he does just jog down. Like it's not to the level of Wu-Tang, but
Yeah.
it is a jog. Like it's not a sprint by any means, but he's just so good at getting the block off the springboard, block off the vault, and then just wrapping it in.
Yeah. No, you always have some anomalies where you're like, I see
Always.
he gets the 3.5 twists around, but it's almost like I can't tell what the reason is of like why he can do it. You know what I mean? Like if you could
Mm,
see a guy who has just like the most powerful tap on high bar, and it's like
yeah.
okay, that's why he can do a casino. That makes
Mm,
sense. But then you see guys like even like Fred Richard. His
mm,
casino tap is very laid back, but his casino is phenomenal. So those things, like I'm always like, I don't
mm.
understand what he does to do it so well.
Yeah, it's always the case. It's there's always some things in gymnastics that seemingly make no sense. Like that they don't obey the laws of
Yeah.
physics at all. It's weird. It's really
Mhm.
weird. Obviously, you're an all-rounder. What is your approach to all-around? Do you like try and hit all 6 pieces like equally, or have you tried specializing a little bit more on one or the other?
I would say more equally. I know that in the NCAA season, I kind of took a step back on vault and floor because our team had a lot of very strong gymnasts on those events, and I knew that my chances of making lineup were almost slim to none at the moment, right? So I knew I would have to keep that for Canadian competitions, but in the next, let's say when season starts to when it ends, like in those 4 months, I likely won't be competing floor vault. So I took more time on the pommel, rings, P bar, high bar. Now I have to kind of see how I'm going to approach that because I'm back training in Canada for the first time in 5 years. So I'm at a different gym and with different coaches, and it's almost like it's going to be a learning experience for me to learn the system and see what works for me now.
What's the transition been like going back from Nebraska to Canada?
Kind of weird, honestly, because I mean I've been moved out of Nebraska for I don't know a month and a bit now, but I haven't really trained in Canada much, like consistently, because I've been going like we went to Pan Am championships, and then we went like obviously to university games. So it's been a lot of back and forth, and it hasn't just been like I don't think I've had one consistent week of training in one place since moving out of Nebraska. So I guess starting tomorrow, we're gonna see how that is.
If you're like me, you struggle with rips on your hands, seemingly at the worst possible times, like in a competition prep, for example. I'm proud to partner with Wad and Dunn, who have a solution for us gymnasts to help us train and protect our hands in the process. I especially recommend their rip guards for apparatus using grips or guards, whatever you want to call them, high bar, rings or A-bars, and their 3-step hand care kit to make sure your hands are strong and rip resistant without making them soft. Use my code POWEL at checkout or my link in the description for 10% off at checkout now. Back to the episode.
What are your goals looking like going ahead?
I think now I am done more or less. Like I have a little bit of a break from the consistent competing that I feel like I've been doing for 2 years. So my goals now are to really up the level of my gymnastics, take some more risks and get higher difficulty scores. I know that I can fit into a team as maybe a third score on a lot of events, but right now I don't have the start values to be like more of a heavy hitter on like specific events, right? So in terms of specialist worlds that are upcoming, going to be pretty hard to be a ring specialist with a 4.9. It's just the reality of it. So I know that whether it's on, like, I would say two of my stronger events are pommel and rings, where I have, you know, like a low 5 start value on pommel and a high, like a 4.9, I think, on rings. They're decent in terms of like fitting into a team, but really need to up the level so I have more of a secure spot on every team. That's my goal for the next couple months at least.
Do you think those pieces are good for the Canadian team to have?
Yeah, I think so. We've been needing an all-arounder that is also strong on pommel on a lot of our teams. That's I would say most of the reason why I fit into the alternate spot, because I could do all around, but I could also put up that score on pommel. And I think honestly every team, like pommel and rings, are so opposite events. So if you're good at both, then you're more versatile.
Yeah, I was going to say that is quite the combination. Can't say I've ever heard of a rings worker that's also a pommel worker, to be honest, but it's impressive to be there. I've always found that when I do like a bunch of ring strength stuff, like when I start working Maltesers, when I start doing that sort of thing, my pommels always gets worse. How do you like manage that, like the flexibility and all that?
Yeah, stretching, and like I do a lot of bucket work. Like how you're learning circles on the
Yeah.
bucket. I take the whole horse with the like both handles and I put it on the ground with the bucket, and I'll just go through my flop sequences and just routines in general. And I found that when I'm obviously because my lats are bigger from rings, it's harder to reach behind your back. But if you can time, like, there's just a certain techniques that work better for me. Like if I can time the pull on the handle to get my hand in behind me faster, then it's like I can actually get my swing more level.
That wasn't one of the questions I actually had on here. I was just genuinely curious
Yeah.
because I've struggled with that, to be fair.
You got to do bucket.
Yeah, I'm like trying to do both, trying to do both, trying to get like ring strength and continue doing all around, continue doing like pommels and everything. But I'm not a rings worker. Like I'm the furthest thing from a rings worker. I don't look it, but rings is by far my worst piece. So if I'm going to be an all-rounder, or if I want to contribute something on that piece, I think I could, but I just need to really hammer ring strength.
It's a slow grind, basically. Like you can't push it too hard, because then bad things happen.
Going further forwards, like LA 2028, what like are you targeting that? I imagine you are, but
Yeah, I know. Obviously, it's a lot. A lot was different 4 years ago, and a lot is going to be different in 4 years. So it's almost impossible to stick to a plan exactly, but that is the goal. And year by year, I'm hoping to just hit checkpoints that bring me towards that goal.
It's impossible to say for certain what will happen and what, like whether you'll make the team or anything like that. You just sort of have to go with the flow, for a lack of a better phrase. What's your proudest moment so far in gymnastics? It could be a competition, it could be just doing a skill.
A couple moments I would say stand out. I think there was this one, like a core memory I have of when we were standing on the podium of like the high bar looking at the crowd once we realized we had qualified a team to the Olympics at Worlds in 2023. And like there were Canada fans that we didn't know who they were, and that's not a common thing, I guess, to happen. Like, but and like everybody else from other countries were like cheering for us as well. We had the flag, and we had just like realized that our goal was achieved. That was like it was so much riding on that competition. Like we were so locked in for so long for that. I guess quick little like we had a 10 a.m. start and we started on pommel, and we knew that it was going to make it or break it. After pommel, if it was bad, then we were out, and we just like we killed it. It was so great, and we were just looking at the crowd, and people were telling us to get off because they had to like clean the stuff in the next subdivision to come in, but we weren't like listening to them. It was like, it's okay. Like let's just take this in now. So that was definitely one of the most proud moments. I think that medal at FECU games too. Like that was for me at least being on the competition floor and really having a good showing for myself as well as everyone else on the team. Like that was great. It capped off a very, very long season for me. Yeah, those are the two right now that come to mind. Winning the Big Ten regular season title with Nebraska at away at Ohio, because we had lost there with a very like narrow margin the year before or 2 years before, and then going back and actually winning it there, like jumping up and down with our coaches, like that was one of the best moments, at least in college. That was, I think, my top moment.
Looking ahead, what's one thing that you want to achieve in the sport? Like I had David Shammer say that he wanted to increase awareness of the sport.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a big goal of mine. I'm obviously very passionate about gymnastics, and I think that people are as well. One time in 4 years when they watch the Olympics, they love it. And after that, for some reason, that desire to watch the sport dies out because it's just sometimes complicated and people don't know too much about it. But making gymnastics a more mainstream sport in Canada and in other parts of the world seems like that would be one of like a huge goal of mine. And obviously making 28 Olympics, that's something I came close to doing in Paris, and kind of goes without saying that that's an obvious goal of mine.
Yeah, still worth saying. Like it's still worth verbalizing it from time to time. How do you want to be remembered within Canadian gymnastics?
Right. So when I was younger gymnast, and I would ask the older gymnasts like questions or talk with them because I thought they were cool or they were really good at gymnastics, and that's kind of what made them cool. And they were very like easy to talk to. It didn't seem like they were too cool for like the little gymnast, right? I want kind of to have people think of me like that, where it didn't matter what level or what age they were. They could always like ask for advice or this or that. Like I was always someone that they could come and get help from or talk to, because it affected it, not affected, but it impacted me of like some older gymnasts that I know that were just very nice, and like, I kind of kept your love for the sport going. Yeah, just someone that put the work in.
That's a good thing to be remembered for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple messages from people like who wanted advice, like hearing the podcast and everything, that they think they can reach out to me, and I'll encourage that every day. I'll try and respond out and give my best advice, and I think that's something that I want to be remembered for as well, like someone who actually helps. From gymnastics, what is the most valuable thing that you have learned?
What have I learned? I think the ability to do things you don't love day in and day out. Not that you don't love, that sounds bad. Because in gymnastics, obviously, there are a lot of things that aren't your favorite, but like it's just the dirty work that you have to do. Where if it's like, I have stiff shoulders, but I know I have to stretch my shoulders every single day, and having the ability to do tough things day in and day out and forcing yourself to do things because it's for the better and it will allow you to do the stuff you love. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from gymnastics.
It's almost like forcing yourself to enjoy it, because it's part of the sport and you have to do it. So you gotta do it. So
Yeah.
you may as well enjoy it while you are.
Like enjoying the grind.
Now that you've experienced the podcast, now that you know what it's like being on here and know what sort of things I'll ask, who do you think would be a good person to get on next, and what would you want to know from them?
A name like Evgeny Semenyuk. I grew up with him. He went to Michigan, and he's training with me now. Do you know Jamil Ali? He represents Trinidad and Tobago. He's just a great dude, very passionate about the sport, good conversation. But have you interviewed a coach before? John Robinson was my coach at Nebraska.
Hmm.
And he is a wizard of we always call him like a computer. He's a supercomputer. Where like super nice guy, but anything Excel or anything planning, and like he is like a computer in that case. Like he's got years planned ahead on his laptop. He's got every scenario running in his head, and he's also very like passionate about the sport and different like creative ideas to keep it running and keep progressing it, especially in the US because that's where he's based, but like all over the world. Like I think it'd be a super good conversation, to be honest.
Well, I had one of the national coaches from Great Britain on, and technically another person who was a coach, but he was also an ex-gymnast, and I focused a bit on both. But yeah, that was Sam Oldham, who's also got a different podcast.
Yeah.
Is there any question you'd want to ask him, your old coach?
I think maybe something like what the biggest reason why gymnastics isn't a money-making popular sport, I guess, or like why are we all talking about the problem that gymnastics needs like more awareness? Like why doesn't it already have it? That could be interesting. Pinpointing kind of the main issue.
Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you all for listening and watching the Game of Gymnastics podcast. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.